So the first time it happened, I'm like, interesting, because it didn't happen to anybody else, just me. Second time, I was shopping. I was actually at the edge of where they sell fruits, just about. Then this black girl was about to leave, and then it beeped. And then I'm like, oh, and then I looked, and then it was a black lady. So the guy went down, searched the bags and everything. I'm like, okay, let me see. So I went about my own shopping. I mean, when I go and spend time, like, cause it's like I make it like a whole event. It's like a whole situation for me. I take my time. I look at the labels, compare the prices. Like I try to take my time. So I go, and then I went there, and it was my turn, and then it beeped. I'm like, interesting, because it beeped for the other lady and she was black, and then it's beeping for me and then it's black. Of course you get offended, but how do you handle that kind of situation? Two ways.
Bata bata, bata bata, bata box.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Bata Box Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is a really good episode. And what's actually quite interesting about this episode was that we were planning to record it for the YouTube channel, but like just everything that could go wrong went wrong. We recorded it about 3 different times. We also lost the video footage, so all the video was actually wiped out and we couldn't recover it anymore, but at least we got the audio saved. And it was just kind of like an episode that we didn't think would actually even end up using, but it turned out to be one of our really best episodes. So you're in for a treat today. We have a lot of gems and tips in it. We talk about racism for the most part and how to deal with racism when you're abroad or when you travel abroad freshly, you know, what kind of things you encounter. So this will be a good episode for you to share with your loved ones and friends who have either recently traveled abroad or are thinking about traveling abroad or are actually living abroad. This is a really good episode. So sit back and enjoy. Other things we talked about include implicit bias, microaggression, when you are schooling abroad, if you have kids that go to school, for example, and more importantly, things like shopping while black, which is the topic of this episode. Also names like foreign names and how people can't see a lot of African names. It's kind of nice because we didn't plan on actually airing this episode at all because we had multiple recordings. It was just like really bad, but it turned out to be very good with a lot of tips and really good gems for you guys. So please feel free to share this. There's just a lot of valuable insights in them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Turn it up. I told you now. Please.
You are worse than me.
Another year is ending. Sure, you didn't whine me.
Another episode of the Japa series. So this is Diola, and I've told you guys, if you know anybody who wants to Japa, if you're about to Japa, or you are planning to Japa, just come to this series. We'll give you everything that you need to know, the mistakes that you should not make, things that you should invest in, things that you should buy, things that you should not buy, how to make extra money, and all the goodness about traveling from Africa to the abroad. So on today's episode, I have Mr. Mike with us. So he's been in the abroad for like over 15 years. So I think that talking to him is going to help us. I've been abroad for like more than 5 years, so I don't think that I'm a fresher like that. But yes, so everybody who has just fresh or who just jackpot, I think he's going to be telling us how was he able to balance his life, few challenges, and then things that has made him settle and then make money and make extra money. So
I don't know about the make money part, but okay.
You will tell us everything.
Yeah, hi guys. So again, Brother Mike here. Thank you so much for being here. So what's going on is there's been a lot of people leaving the country, like fleeing to the abroad. So Diola had reached out to me. I wanted to get my opinion on my experience. So I left the country a while back, and for me, when I left, Nigeria was actually a lot better than it is. When I left the country, like things were a little bit better, and the Japa syndrome or the Japanese level is not as high as it is today. Today is like almost like an 8 out of 9. When I left the country, it was more like
everybody wants to Japa. Yes,
when I left, it was more like a level 1 or 2, or maybe there's always been a trend. There's always been a trend for people emigrating, leaving the country. Even all countries in the world, people emigrate, people leave the country. And for a place like Nigeria, it's not as much.
Yeah,
It's
not as much right now.
not as much as Nigeria. So when I left, things were not as difficult as they are now. So that made it a little bit easier for me to leave. So I came here. I was here on a student visa, as Adeola might have talked about. That's one of the easiest way to leave the country. If you want to leave Nigeria, the best way or the most surefire way as a youth or someone who's young, of course we are both youth and most of us are, but the best way to leave is to leave by going to school. And it's not too hard, if you're already in school and you went to secondary school in Nigeria. So that's kind of the easiest way. Now, some people do live in other routes, but those are not usually recommended generally because there's more stress involved, there's more struggle.
But then again, you need to have, if you're going to go like with school, for example, let's say for the UK now that everybody's going to, you need to have like £15,000. So for people who don't have that kind of money, how did you go about going to school if I don't have £15,000?
Yeah, so again, like I said earlier, when I left, things were not that competitive. In other words, there were a lot of scholarships that were available. A lot of countries were open to Nigeria. Places like the UK had scholarships that Nigerians can get. And with that scholarship, you can come to the UK to study without paying a lot. There are more systems in place now. In the US, there's something called SEVIS, Student and Exchange Visitor Information Services, SEVIS. So back then, when I left, there was no service. In the UK, there are new implementations and new systems that have been in place. When I left, when Nigerians, there was no e-passport at the time. So then you go to the UK embassy, your name is Kolawole Shonekon today. You don't get a visa. Tomorrow, you see people that will come. They are like Kolawole Wasu. So people could get multiple visas, there are multiple trials. It's just systems were open both to the UK and also to the US and Canada. But now things have actually gotten tougher. Technology has increased and it just made it a little bit more harder. But to answer your question, sorry, real quick.
Tell us,
there's scholarships available. Yeah, go ahead.
How did you settle and what made life easy for you? First of all, before you say how did you settle, if you can tell us in 3 words, your first 5 years in the abroad, what words would you use to qualify your first 5 years? Use 3 words to qualify your first 5 years in the abroad.
It was difficult, very difficult. So that's word number 1. You said 3 words. It was difficult. It was very, very, I guess difficult and hardship there at the same time. So expect hardship and difficulty. So that's one. You put me on the spot here. Another word for that would be relieving. Might be a good word. So difficult, relieving because of the stress present in Nigeria. Then the third word is growth. Totally unplanned, Adeola. Thank you very much. I asked you to send me the questions, but you didn't. You only put me on the spot. But okay, anyway. So difficult, relieving, and the third one is growth. Difficult in the sense that it was very difficult, especially if you left the country. Yeah, it was difficult. It's difficult because you have to talk about like living in a new country, the culture, the language. So that's one. It was relieving in the sense that in Nigeria, things were difficult then. They are much more difficult now, even in 2023. But it's relieving to know that you have power every time. You don't have to worry about NEPA. You don't want to have to worry about go slow on Third Mainland Bridge, go slow on the Ikorodu Road, for example. So it's relieving to be in a place where the systems work and everything is functioning like it's supposed to be. Then growth, because you get to grow and you experience something new. So anyone who wants to Japa, for your Japa series, if you are ready, if you are willing to deal with the difficulties involved and the challenges, and just so that's like another podcast on that by itself. Then the growth involved, you have to be ready to grow. And also the good part is it's a bit relieving to be out of the hustle and the bustle and the challenges and the inefficiencies of the Nigerian polity. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are my 3 words.
Yeah, it does, definitely. People used to say that the first 5 years of going to, when you move from one country to another country, is like you are going to suffer. Not maybe suffer, but at least it's going to take time for you to adjust to your new reality, new system, to learn how things work and to do all that. And I totally agree. Like, my own situation is very different, of course, but let's not talk about me. So tell us, what are the things that you've done since when you moved up until now that you feel like has made your life comfortable? So give us, this is where you give us the tips. Oh, do this, do that, don't do this. Or this is what I think that has really helped me.
Yeah, comfortable is relative. So I wouldn't say comfortable. Living in the abroad continues to be very challenging. Really, really challenging in many, many aspects. Coming from Nigeria to the abroad, the first thing you have to think about is you have to pay your bills. I was talking to somebody recently, and he was talking about how back in Nigeria they used to, pano, it's kind of, you can, when they take your light, you can go and steal electricity. If there's no light, you can go somewhere, you can steal power, and you can like throw a wire somewhere and catch wire, whatever. Those that know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. But
I know what
basically,
you're talking about. Don't worry.
you know what
I
I'm saying?
got you.
Yeah. I won't go into any details on that. But here, that doesn't happen. So you have to be willing to pay your bills. So you need to be planning to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, they will cut it. Like it could be a water bill, it could be power bill, it could be your insurance bill, it could be your phone bill. So very, very important to keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is the importance of work. Here you work, 8 hours, 12 hours. Your work is your work and work is work. I remember growing up in Nigeria, like a lot of times you have people working like government jobs. Friday they leave at 12 or 1. Or on some days they don't work as hard. Here, like, especially if you just come, you have to like really, really work. And then the important thing also for me that, back to your question about being comfortable is that the expectations are somewhat very heavy if you leave. So let's say from Nigeria, you come here, immediately you come here, people are going to expect you to start working on water or doing miracles. It can be your family, your siblings, your in-laws.
Texting you, hi, please, I need to pay my
school
money.
Fees. I need to pay my child's school fees. I need to pay for that, pay for that. So the point is, you need to be very ready for that, for people in Nigeria not to understand the situation here. You are here just trying to find your level.
Hustling.
Oh my God, like you're still broke, you're still trying to hustle. And now with Naira dollar exchange, it's kind of a little bit harder for people to send money to you from Nigeria because it's just a lot more. You have that incentive to work harder and work more and do 2-3 shifts, 3 jobs. So it's actually very, very interesting. Another thing I want to say, actually, before I kind of pass it on to you, is the fact that there's a lot of loneliness here. Wherever you go, wherever you are, I don't care if it's Germany or Spain, the UK, some parts of the US, it's just like you're the only one there. There's no that cultural connection where every Sunday is the particular thing, every Friday you go to the mosque or pray 5 times a day. So you need to be aware for that. You need to be ready rather for that a bit of isolation. Yeah.
You need to build your you need to be able to have what's the English now? You need to be strong.
You need to be strong. You need to have that mental toughness. Yeah, yes. Mental capacity. Yeah.
Okay, so now you've told us everything that we need to know by the books. What are other things that you feel like people can't do to increase their chances to get them to that place where they're a little bit more comfortable?
You mean those that are living, right? Those that are
living, yes.
Yeah. So those that are living, what can they do to get themselves more comfortable? I think I saw your last episode. Yeah, when they come. The last episode that was aired, which if you guys haven't checked it out, you probably should look at it. Adiola had a lot of tips on that. Yeah. So that one, you talked about learning a skill. Very, very important. I mean, that's really important. You need to have a side gig or just be entrepreneurial. You cannot come here and just expect one job because your pay, your salary is capped. If you can do a manual labor, I think you talked about making hair, whatever it is, even if it's carpentry or painting as a guy, if you can paint, very important if you can repair cars, anybody that knows how to repair cars, fix cars. Oh my God, that's a big, big one. If you're a guy and you have, how back in Nigeria, they look at mechanics funny. This guy's a mechanic, he's just no. But if you're a guy who can do anything all those mechanics or vulcanizer, all those things like that, you can do that kind of stuff. That's perfect. So what can make your life more comfortable is back to kind of your last episode. I'll basically make sure that you have a skill, you've learned a skill, you can do something. Another one you talked about in your episode, which I love very much, is driving. You said that people need to learn how to drive. I can overemphasize how important that is. A place like the UK, there are bus systems that are on time, on schedule, and you have to
Let's not
be by
start.
the bus. Let's
Let's
not
not
start. So
start.
if you can drive,
I live
it makes it
super
easier. Go
far
ahead.
away from London, and I will tell you how many times that. In fact, now I'm giving up. I don't take the bus anymore because it's sometimes you wait for like 45 minutes, the bus is late, and then they come with an attitude, and they stay for 2 minutes, and then they go, and then okay, yes, please learn how to drive.
Yeah, I just want to touch real quick on that. You learn how to drive, the stuff you talked about. That it's not even like if you can't drive, like in some parts of, like if you're in downtown London, whatever, you may not be required to drive because transportation is so efficient. It's just that you have to change your lifestyle to a particular schedule because the bus might be showing up once every hour, and if you miss that one, you have to wait for the next hour. Like Nigeria, whereby you just go to the bus stop and there's
like 50
so many
buses there.
everywhere. Yeah. And one might even be doing shakara. You say, no, let me on to another one. Or you don't like the chair. You know how you get on some buses and like, I don't like the chair of this bus. Let's go.
I don't like the driver's face.
Or I don't like the driver's face, or the driver is rude, or
not going to happen.
My spirit is telling me that this bus is not the right bus. I'll come down and wait for the one. Here, there's nothing like that. So you need to adjust your schedule. Not going to happen. Adjust your schedule. Then everything is expensive. Everything is very, very expensive. You're going to make more money, but everything is very, very expensive. I want to touch on racism real quick, if I may, because I know some people are like concerned about like racism and stuff. And what I have to say to that is, it depends on where you are. It depends on where you are. It depends on where you are. And generally, today in 2023, most people are not racist overtly. I don't know of any country.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I do not agree. I will say this real quick. Okay. I've moved from the Middle East to the UK, and I've been here for a few months, less than 6 months. I will tell you this. I do feel like I have experienced more racial discrimination than I experienced in the whole of almost 6 years or almost 5 years in Doha. I'm just putting this out there, to be honest. I do feel like I have experienced more. The look, the attitude, the way they respond to you, the way they. I'm not joking. Okay, so I have this crazy experience.
No, go ahead. I'm hearing you. Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Every time I go to this particular shop, I swear to God, if there is one particular guy who is sitting at the edge of the door, he will make the alarm beep every single time.
Oh wow! So it triggers the alarm when you get in. Hey, he's here again.
I'm telling you. And then sometimes it's just the way they look at you. It's just they don't have to say anything to you. It's just the way they look at you. Like it's just the way. And okay, so I just never want to ever talk about this. But in the school that my daughter goes to, she's like the only black person in the school.
That's normal, with the daughter.
It's not normal in Doha.
It's normal if you are in there abroad. Doha is not normal. I mean, Doha is not like a Western country.
When people are trying to be. I know when you're trying to be nice. I know when you're trying to be nice. I know when you're trying to fake niceness. I know when your smile is. And I'm not even telling you to smile, but don't have an attitude. You don't need to show the face. You don't need to give a second look. You don't need to. Do you understand? Like no. Okay. Again, I live in a small white community. There are not a lot of us black people there, but I will tell you that I have definitely experienced more racial discrimination and just experienced the whole looks and stuff than I have. So don't say in 2013, 2023, there is no racism like before. It is bad. It is, for me, it is worse now than what I experienced when I first Japan 6 years ago.
So
do you understand what I mean?
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, rather. I'm just saying that it's not overt. Like I said earlier, it's not overt. Like it's not out there kind of in your face. Even those who are racist in areas that they are racist.
This one is right in my face. This one is right in my face.
It's like showing you, we don't want you in this store. Don't come back again. Kind of.
This is right in my face. And it's the closest big store. It's the closest one to me. So what do you
could it be UK? Because different countries, there are different tolerances. I know some parts like in Europe, let's say Italy or Spain, or places like Netherlands, they have their own
Mm-hmm.
different very degree of racism as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I know that there are countries that are forth-looking, places like
I don't.
Australia, places like
I don't
Canada,
think.
and
I
even places
don't
like the
think that
US.
is the. I don't think that is the is the whole of the UK. I just think that's where I live, where I stay, is just a very, very, very white community, and that's I understand it
Possibly, yeah.
when people will say, "Oh, we want to live in certain areas of
Mhm.
like the UK because there are more Black people there, or there are more." Do you understand? It's easy to form the communities, but I like my small little village. I love it. Do you understand? But then again, the racism is loud. As quiet as like racism is loud, because again, I can count how many Black people that. Do you understand what I mean?
And yeah.
But I have a very thick skin. It takes
I
a
can
lot.
relate, yeah.
It takes a lot to get to me, which is something
Yeah.
that if you are going to Jackpot, you need to work on it. It should take a lot for those kind of things to get to you. If not, they will set a trap, walk you into the trap, you fall into the trap, and then they'll be like, "You're the problem." Do you understand what I mean?
So
"You're the problem."
I guess what you're saying is that somebody needs to be able to be comfortable with themselves in their skin, regardless of what's around them, and more importantly,
Definitely.
have the tolerance. You need to be able to be at alert, as they say,
Definitely.
be at alert, be at alert for stuff like that. So my own experience is very similar. In this fact that they are racist. When you go to all these Western worlds and stuff, but because of like the location where I've been, I'm always in a place with a lot of Blacks, so it's kind of like a little bit toned down. So I don't always sense that, or I don't always see that a lot. But if some people actually, believe it or not, some Nigerians don't want to be in places like that where there are a lot of Blacks. They want to be in remote areas because they want to stay away from where there are too many Blacks for whatever reasons. So every person to his own. But the other thing I also want to say is for someone who's coming, I think they probably need to have some savings. I think you talked about that in one of your other episodes. They need to try and save money because it's very expensive. It's very, very, very expensive. You need to have lots of money. If you have properties, sell properties, sell your land. If you know people, it can be costly. Because like I said earlier, when I came, things were not that like tight. There was some funds available. But now where you've had like the Arab Spring, there's been just so many things. So many people have migrated. And the West is like a little bit like tighter, I guess, to get into. But yeah, it's you have to deal with those elements. It's those are the kind of things you have to deal with whenever you want to travel.
As a young person who just moved from Nigeria to the abroad, how did you deal with racism? Because I know that is one of the major difficulties that a lot of people tend to struggle with. Like even after they've moved for a long time, some people they don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. So how did you deal with racism when you moved from Nigeria?
Yeah, when I moved from Nigeria, to me, it was a very surprising element to encounter racism. Reason being because Nigeria is an all-Black country. We are all Black, even though we have our own nepotistic and tribalistic ways.
Colorism, yes.
Yeah, but you come here, you're like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. So it took me a while to adjust. So someone who is trying to leave, I would recommend that you kind of be prepared for that. It's going to vary depending on your location. If you go to a big city where there are a lot of Blacks and people are more exposed, it's different versus going to a small village somewhere that is also in the abroad and they don't tend to encounter a lot of Blacks. So just be prepared for that. Have your mind ready and try and have a tough skin. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
To be honest, having the tough skin is not something that I'm just going to put my own 2 cents here. Having a tough skin is sometimes not going to be enough. You need to also do things to ensure that you're not caught in certain situations or you're not caught in certain places that you should not be, because sometimes it's just easier to avoid situations than solve the situation. And this is going to, I'll give an example. Every time I go to one particular store, it's a very big store, the biggest store to me, so which is very easy for me to want to go to. Every time I'm about to leave the store, the alarm will beep, like don't at the door. So the first time it happened, I'm like, interesting, because it didn't happen to anybody else, just me.
Mm-hmm.
Second time, I was shopping. I was actually at the edge of where they sell fruits, just about. Then this black girl was about to leave, and then he beeped. And then I'm like, oh, and then I looked, and then it was a black lady. So the guy went down, searched the bags and everything. I'm like, okay, let me see. So I went about my own shopping. I mean, when I go and spend time, like, cause it's like I make it like a whole event. It's like a whole situation for me. I take my time. I look at the labels, compare the prices. Like, I try to take my time. So I go, and then I went there, and it was my turn. And then he beeps. I'm like, interesting, because he beeped for the other lady and she was black, and then he's beeping for me and then he's black. Of course, you get offended, but how do you handle that kind of situation? Two ways. Either I don't go back to the store. I still go back to the store, and it happens to me. Almost, I swear to God, it happens to me almost every single time. Now, I feel I get my receipts, I get my stuff, I hand it over to them, I wait, and then do whatever you want to do and give my stuff back, and then I leave. Or you don't go back to the store. Or you don't go to the store on the day where you feel like you're in a bad mood. Because if you punch the guy, or if you say something to the guy, then he has a reason for you to get yourself, for you to get yourself arrested. So there are certain situations, there are certain situations whereby you don't want to put yourself in, or you don't want to, you just move on. You just
Yeah.
Do you understand?
The other thing, if I can add to that, what I can add to that is that that's a form of what they call like microaggressions. So it's micro because it's not really a big deal. The guy did not come and talk to you. He didn't come and harass you or anything. It's just like something like, psychological. It's like, every time you come here, there's somebody, kind of triggering a sound or alarm for you to just walk out.
But I'm doing my job. But it's my job.
That's what he says. Your job, but your job only applies when black people come to the store.
Exactly. Your job only applies when black people come into the store. Your shady job. Your very, very shady job.
So be ready for that, I guess. For those of you that want to japa, just be ready for that. Be aware that those kind of things happen. That occurs. That's a reality. And be able to deal with that mentally. And if you can avoid the store, but in some cases you can't. You just can't avoid that store. There's nothing you can do. You just have to deal with it. So just an example, like I said, I came in, when I was in school and stuff. And there was a class I took. There was me. There was two other guys. One was from Kenya and one was from Zambia. So there were three Africans, in this particular class. Me from Nigeria, a guy from Kenya, a guy from Zambia. So one guy from Zambia, his name is John. The guy from Kenya, his name is Alex, whatever. The professor was confusing the names of the two guys. These are guys that don't look the same. They don't look alike. They don't look the same. One name starts with like Alex, and that was like a J. Like, you should not mix those at all. But both of them were of the same complexion. Like, Zambia, Kenya, they're a little bit maybe of the darker melatonin level and stuff. So, but in this guy's head, he can't see two black people and put them apart. I know this one is John, is Alex. So those kind of things occurs. Another big one is also names. Your names will be butchered, but people can say like weird names like Markovitsky or Zelensky or names that are
and they pronounce it properly. They pronounce it very, very properly.
Perfect.
But then they will not be able to pronounce Diola accurately.
Or they can't pronounce Niger names, and they will just be like, they can call it like A something. They go, A for Adiola. They don't want to say Adiola. So be ready for this kind of things whereby your name will be butchered. Your names are going to be butchered, and or they will avoid saying your name because they don't want to offend you. That's another big one. Whereby they will talk to you, but they can't mention your name.
And again, something that I noticed is that some people do not even know that they are being racist when they are being racist. So it is not proper to say, "Oh, you look very beautiful for a black-skinned girl."
Oh yeah, that's wrong. Please don't say that. Yeah, and they're well intentioned, I'm sure.
But they don't know that you're not supposed to say it. Well, again, it's such a. Are you? Do you know what I mean? Again, someone will be like,
yeah.
"Oh my God, you look very, very put together for a black person."
Wow. Yeah, that's wrong. That's just not right. So if you're watching this and you happen to be one of those people, please be sensitive, be racially sensitive.
I'm like, you can't say that. You can't say, you can't especially say that to me. that
Yeah.
is not a compliment. That is so not. That is not. You cannot say that I look put together. What is your definition of again? You don't want to get angry.
together.
You do not want to go
Yeah.
off. You don't want to be the black, angry, screaming,
Angry,
aggressive
yeah.
person. Because then again, they'll be like, they are all the same. They are always angry. They are always screaming. They're always. So don't give them an opportunity to brand you or put you into a. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to connect to Mr. Mike, please tell us your social media handle so that they can follow you there.
Brother_Mike at Twitter, Brother_Mike at Instagram.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to always, please subscribe to our channel. Always share the video because that's how we get views. That's how people get to know us. And most of the time, that's how people get to know tips. If you just jackpot or you're about to jackpot, this is a series that you want to follow. Every week, I, Diola, come to you with amazing tips and tricks on how to make your jackpot experience a whole lot better. So please watch the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe. Until come your way next week, please stay fabulous. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Thanks to Diola. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for coming to our episode. If you have any more questions for Mr. Mike, do not hesitate. Drop it down in the comments. He will respond to you, or who knows, maybe we'll do another episode. But you can always listen to us on the Batterbox podcast. We try our best to always have like a podcast episode. We're trying to stay more consistent with that. But if not, I will see you next week. Please stay fabulous. Bye, guys.
Bata bata, bata bata, bata box.